Hi, my name is April, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my son Carter and our journey to finding Tim Mackesey. When my son was a little over 3 years old, his stuttering was so severe that he was limiting his communication with pretty much everybody. He was starting to have secondary behaviors with eye blinks and eye gaze aversion and all of those things that you don't typically see in a 3-year-old who stutters. We started to try to find some help because we were aware of how severe it was, and so we started in our local town, and pediatric therapists were telling me that it was normal, that he would outgrow it, that it wasn't as bad as we were making it sound. Adult therapists weren't really the right fit in my opinion since he was so young, so I started broadening our search and looking at other larger cities outside of ours, and I honed in on the board-recognized specialty in disfluency therapists through ASHA. And when I realized that I was starting to broaden my scope beyond the state, then I came across Tim Mackesey's website. And one thing that you should know about me is that I am a speech pathologist. So I had heard about Tim Mackesey a couple years earlier in a professional conversation where someone said, if you ever have a client that stutters, this is something you would definitely want to keep in mind. And I just kind of thought, well, I don't really work with that population, so whatever. I always worked in acute care hospitals and specifically premature infants and NICUs, so this was definitely not my area, and I needed lots of help for my son. So I reached out to Tim after poring over his amazing website, and I emailed him that night, and he called me the next day and said that he recognized how young my son was and that he would never ask someone to come to Atlanta unless he felt like it would be definitely worth it. And after describing my son's stuttering patterns, he said that it was definitely sounded like it would be worth coming to Atlanta. That was in July, and we were in Atlanta in August. And he essentially changed the complete path for my son at that point. We left 3 days later, and come here. And he, 11 years ago, was barely able to communicate. And 3 days later, he was doing so much better. I couldn't even believe it. As a communication professional, it absolutely blew my mind. And it was also his hard work. And we went back a year later just to kind of do a refresh and just make sure, because he was going into kindergarten, and it still is amazing to me what Tim Mackesey does with his personal experiences and the way that he approaches his patient care and his technique as a professional. I have not found anything like it out there. And if you are walking a similar path, or your child is, I urge you emphatically to reach out to him. This is my son Carter. He's almost 15 years old now. Yes, yep. Hi.
Hey.
He doesn't remember much. Why don't you tell him a little bit about you, just so they can hear you?
Well, yeah, I don't really remember much. It was a little over 11 years ago, and all I really remember is that it was just like a really fun way of learning how to like speak correctly. I'm not a speech pathologist like my mom, so I don't really know like the medical terms, but I just know it helped a lot because I have some friends who stutter and who have a lisp, and it definitely helped me. And
no one knows that you ever had that problem. No one. And the biggest thing for me was the turnaround in his confidence in his communication. Even when we came back home and he still had stuttering moments, it didn't faze him. He was like, I can fix that, and I'm in control of my speech. And it was this complete shift of how he viewed himself as a communicator and how he could be in control of his speech once again, which is something he had completely lost. So Tim, we owe you more than we could ever return to you, and we thank you. And I am so grateful that he does not remember what I remember from that time, and we're here for you, Tim, if you ever need anything, and we just owe you a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you so much. Bye.